And welcome to Rock Bottom Syndicate. I'm your host, Joyce Strong. Just want to define syndicate for you. It's a group of individuals or organizations combined to promote some common interest. Here, we're looking at a common interest of helping people and being of service. Rock Bottom is my community of friends who, after having hit rock bottom, discovered that being of service has a surprising side effect. It actually helps us get better. It helps us make better decisions. The act of giving and being of service helps us to create a strong, joyous life. Rock Bottom Syndicate is about people who have a story to tell to inspire others to keep moving toward their potential no matter what happens in their life. Rock Bottom is an opportunity to pivot, adapt, and strategize to whatever life throws your way so that you can solve the problem. Rock Bottom is a time when you can choose to take responsibility for everything that's going on in your life, not blame the outside, so that you can gain control to make changes for yourself. Your secrets, shame, it's the prisoner of your emotions, and telling your story will set you free to heal, to grow as a person, and to move on to enjoy the process of creating a strong, joyous life. So go out and tell your story and be of service and ask for help. My episode today is with Becky Erkkila. Becky wrote a book called What Shall I Do? She is a mother of 10, a hospice nurse, which she holds very sacred, holding that time, that space for people in the last moments and days of their lives. And she was in a domestically violent situation and was able to really reframe and learn how to get out of that. And she was very kind and brave to share her story with us here at Rock Bottom Syndicate and also in her book, and will help you if you need help. So please do get her book, What Shall I Do? Reach out to BeckyErkkila.com, and all the info will be in the show notes, but it is Becky, B-E-C-K-Y, Erkkila, I-R-K-K-I-L-A.com. And let me know, too, if you have some questions about domestic violence. I do have a course. You can find everything through TotalWellCoach.com. And I do have a course in my Inner Circle membership on domestic violence, and I will include this episode there as well as other trainings we do on domestic violence. So very grateful to Becky for sharing her story with us and sharing her book, What Shall I Do? I hope you'll go out and get it. Give us a thumbs up, 5-star review, share the episode so we can reach more people and help more people not be victims of domestic violence and be safe and happy and create strong, joyous lives. Thanks a lot. So welcome, Becky. I'm so happy to have you on Rock Bottom Syndicate.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, we're going to have a fun conversation, talk about some serious stuff, but I think in the end it's a good story. So Becky Erkkila, you have a website, BeckyErkkila.com, E-R-K-K-I-L-A, B-E-C-K-Y, Erkkila. And your book, which just got published, is What Shall I Do? I knew I'd get it. What Shall I Do? Yeah, good. Hold it up a little higher. There we go. What Shall I Do? And this is somewhat of a memoir or a story about your experiences?
It does have my experience in it, but I don't like to categorize it as a memoir because it's more of a self-help, in my opinion.
Okay.
Because I'm sharing my story to help others, and I'm wanting them to apply it to their own lives and make changes and grow.
Great. So self-help, personal development, and learning from experience with some examples from you. And also you are a hospice nurse and a speaker as well as an author. Do you have a social media handle that you like to, a way for people to reach out to you?
I have a Facebook page and an Instagram, and they're both Becky Erkkila.
Great. Okay. I like to say that in the beginning, just in case somebody has to scoot away and they know that, oh, I'll get back to her and jot it down. So that is great. Well, I'm really excited. I have not read your book yet. I heard a little bit about it because we talked before. But But I'd love to hear from you about the book and about your story and what happened beyond that.
Okay. So I came from a large family, had a great growing up, and I ended up marrying young. My first husband was emotionally abusive, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And when I left that marriage, I would say I was a broken woman. You know what I mean? I didn't feel good about myself and jumped into a physically abusive marriage. And that's the one that my book is mainly about and it was about a 6-year marriage. He was very controlling, very manipulative. He was textbook perpetrator or abuser.
Mm-hmm.
I went through all of the things that they say to look for. He probably had 90% of them.
What were some of those things to look for?
One of them, quick involvement. He wanted to get married. He probably started asking me to marry him within a week or two, and asked me 10 times before I finally agreed. And we probably only dated 2 months before we got married. Wow. So very quick involvement. Right after we got married, he was served a charge that had to do with abuse. Mm-hmm. From a previous girlfriend, so previous abuse. Mm-hmm. He lost jobs all the time. He probably went through 6 or 7 jobs while we were married. Mm-hmm. And it was never his fault. You know, it was always somebody else's fault. Mm-hmm. He had to control and know everything that was going on. So he would answer all the phones and interrogate me, know who I was talking to, what I was talking about, where I was going, and became to very limit my contact with family and friends. And they kind of backed off because it was too intense for them. Mm-hmm. Which that is one thing I plead with people who know that their family members or friends are possibly in a domestic violence relationship, to not give up on them and not walk out of their life, even though you probably feel like you're being pushed out of their life. Because I feel like that's the string, even if it's a very thin string, meaning the relationship is you only talk to them once a month or once every couple months. But if they know that they can come to you at that time when they're able to finally get out, hold on to that.
So you said string, but I'm thinking this is a lifeline.
Yes, totally. Lifeline. I totally agree.
Yeah.
Much better terminology. So my sister and mom were that for me. Like the rest of my siblings kind of backed out, but my sister didn't. She didn't give up. She just kept in there, even though she didn't like my ex-husband, and she basically was asked to get out. You know what I mean? He didn't like her, but she just stuck in there. Thank goodness.
Yeah, thank God for your sister. What a wonderful person.
Yes. So after 6 years, I had lots of times when I probably realized it wasn't good. I got a paper from the kids' school, and it talked about the signs of domestic violence. And that's when I started realizing that was what, that I was in that situation. Mm-hmm. I didn't have the courage then, but then there was a point when I found out that my son was being abused, and that was the final straw. On top of that, I started going to school. He wasn't making enough money financially. We weren't making it, and unfortunately, I hate to admit this, but it was the financial part of the marriage that was failing, and that we weren't providing for the children and providing for our needs. That was the part that made me go out and get a job, and then get the oh my goodness, the confidence to leave. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Me being abused, that wasn't enough to give me the confidence or even the gumption to leave. But knowing that I needed to take care of the kids and I needed to do it because he wasn't doing it. And then going out and starting to get my degree to become a nurse, and then realizing that I didn't need him. I was going to be okay. You know what I mean? I could support the kids and it would be much more peaceful and much safer.
Yeah.
And so that was the thing for me that got me to give me the confidence to leave. And then I feel like miracles happened. I mean, right at the very end, it got really bad. He threatened me with a loaded gun. He was a policeman,
Yeah.
and he threatened me with a loaded gun, and I just said, "Go ahead," because at that point I didn't care anymore. Like, I was so tired of being scared, so tired of being hurt, and I'm like, if you do me in, that will do me a favor. You know what I mean? My life.
I just want to jump in a little bit there and say, because of when you said you were a little bit embarrassed about admitting that it's common when we're subject to abuse, when people are subject to abuse over time, that our framework really changes and our confidence diminishes. So I ask you to not be afraid or embarrassed, whoever, all our listeners, and you too, Becky, to that's nothing to be ashamed of. That is what happens to most people. And that feeling of go ahead, like you're just giving up, that is not uncommon, and it's not your fault.
Thank you. And I feel like also the whole one big red flag in my perspective for me was that I totally rationalized and justified his behavior for my family so that I could stay in that situation longer. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really important to recognize. If you're making excuses for your significant other, for their behavior, I know it could happen, men or women, mm-hmm. but for their behavior, for their abuse, for their unkindness, for their control, that's a red flag that you need to look at yourself and say, okay, why am I excusing this behavior? And if your loved ones is seeing something in the relationship that's not good and they tell you, listen to them. They're seeing something that you're not, and you're not willing to recognize. And later on, believe me, you will regret that you stayed and allowed, like, especially for me, mm-hmm. I had 6 children. And it wasn't just my life that was being affected. It was all of their lives. Mm-hmm. And so it isn't kind, it isn't fair, it isn't right, it isn't good to stick it out mm-hmm. just because you think that it's going to get better, or you think that it's really not that bad, because in your heart, mm-hmm. It's not good. Destructive things are happening, harm is happening, and it's not worth trying to stick it out.
And going in the other direction, though, the reason we stay is also scary, but sometimes those are made up fears, not real fears.
So, well, we stay because we think, I can just imagine me. At first I thought financially I couldn't make it, you know what I mean? Because I didn't have my degree, or that he would come after me, which he did. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I feel those are they're imposed by the perpetrator, by the abuser, so that you won't leave. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And my situation, I feel like, isn't the typical. I mean, I finally got the courage to get out, and I left, and I got a protective order, and I moved in with my family, and I was going to finish my degree and live my life out. And I was so proud of myself, felt so safe. And about 3 weeks after that, my ex-husband made this elaborate plan, got a teenage kid to drive, and he knew my schedule. And he grabbed me up at the college, and he proceeded to kidnap me and rape me, and then at the end attempted to kill me.
Oh God, Becky.
And I don't regret leaving, just even though that happened, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I think, you know what? I would do that 50 times for my kids. looking back now, you know, of course at the time it was hard, but I'm like looking back, I'm like, I wish I would have done it 3 years earlier or 4 years earlier, because all of the hard things that my kids had to go through, now I'm seeing all the repercussions of that in their lives now. You know what I mean? And even all of our lives are all intertwined, but to realize that your choices affect, you know, somebody, our children, you know what I mean? Children or family, my parents, my brothers and sisters. And so we really have to think of not just ourselves, like, well, it seems easier to stay because he keeps pushing me, and just be strong and do what's best for everybody. And in the end, you'll see that's what's best for you. If it's really, truly abuse, and I don't know what the percentage is. I know it's very high. If it's true abuse, they're not going to get better. You know what I mean? They don't, unless they take some real hard stands and go to some major counseling. They don't get better. You know what I mean? And it's
a few do, but it's not. It's very hard to get beyond it. Yeah.
It is, and I feel like in relationships, if it's got to a certain point, like in my relationship where he choked me and I passed out, or he pulled the gun on me, it wasn't going to go back to where we're going to be nice and everything's going to be all hunky-dory. You know what I mean? Yeah. It wasn't going to go back. It was because he felt like he was losing control because I was going to school and I was becoming more confident in myself, and he felt that. And so he was using those things to try to control me again. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm just going to sit here for a second with you and let you feel this, because you're letting out your story, you're telling it, and you're reliving it a bit. You're feeling it, but you're safe now.
Oh, I'm totally safe. And sometimes I tell my story and I cry, and sometimes I don't. And I don't feel bad either way, because then you know it's real.
Yeah.
My story's real. And even though I've spent years and years to heal and gone to, you know, therapy and lots of different things and journaling and all kinds of things, it's still real. You know what I mean?
Well, that's why I started the Rock Bottom Syndicate, because I recognize that, and I recognize the value of just sharing that moment with you. And I'm honored to be able to sit and listen with you and take some of that on my shoulders, and just be with you, because it is painful. But you've done something that I want us as a team to help teach other people, is when you go through that fire and you finally get vulnerable with someone you trust, who you can trust, then you can take this as a learning opportunity and look at all the learning and great things that have come to you out of that willingness.
Oh, totally. I wouldn't change any of it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
Yeah. So,
I do have to say, because some people ask, my ex-husband is in prison, and we are safe, and it has been amazing. Amazing to have a safe, because I know many women get out of the situation, but yet their abuser is still in their life. And I know that's not an easy place to be.
Yeah, it's tough. And it's when you're leaving, I think that it's the most, as you found out, the most dangerous, when you start to break through with the confidence, and that's when the threat gets really real for the abuser, right?
Yep. And surprising, I thought, with a protective order, and he even violated it once and went to jail, I thought that would stop him, but it didn't.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like all abusers are as hard as he is, because I think some of them, they don't want to go to jail, and so they back off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I guess I say that because I don't want everyone to feel scared to leave, like something would happen as bad as mine. And of course, it's always a possibility, but I feel like we can't let fear determine what we're going to do. We can't think, well, maybe he'll do this and maybe he'll do that, or maybe she'll do this, maybe she might. But if you stay, what's your life going to be like? You know?
She will. He will. Yeah.
Yep.
And what I guess another lesson to take from that, I'm just noticing the sun is shining in, so I'm getting checkered here, but that's okay. Another thing I took away from that is when you do decide to leave, have a plan, get extra help, and have extra security around you. So we might think, because I know, in my situation, and I've heard this before, we leave, but then we put ourselves back in, I'll just go talk to him, and you go someplace where something bad so just knowing that this is a more dangerous time, taking extra precautions, not just that piece of paper.
Totally. And I think emotionally being ready to be done, because there's I feel like if you're on the fence, they know that, and they do the smooth talking of, I won't do it anymore. I'll be good. I'll be nice to you, which is just the whole cycle over again. You know what I mean? They want you to get you back in and get you under their thumb again so that they can run your life. And you know what I mean?
We call that hearts and flowers, right?
Yep. Or they have that domestic will of violence, and it is real. Yeah. I mean, the honeymoon phase and everything is perfect and I'm never going to do it again. And then you start to feel the tension build and you think, oh my goodness, like me, I could feel the tension build, and I would send my kids downstairs because he would start throwing things and just being aggressive. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel this. Hurry, everybody leave. And then I'll stay here and try. Yeah, and then I would try to calm him down and try to get him to not be upset, but he always exploded. And then we would start all over again where he would apologize and say he wouldn't do it again and the whole thing. Yeah. So it doesn't matter how many times they promise. It always seems like it ends up, you know what I mean, in my experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it sounds very typical.
It seemed like the end of the world. And right after, I was kidnapped, I couldn't think, I couldn't function. But as I took steps to become a mom again, because that's what kept me going, is my kids, you know what I mean? Like, I have a life to live. I have people to take care of. I have people that are depending on me. And so that gave me the purpose to get up and go back to school and do what I need to do to rebuild my life. And I think that's important, that the rest of the story of, yes, horrible things do happen. And yes, it seems like they last forever. Because I remember with both my marriages, I thought, am I ever going to get treated good? Am I ever going to feel emotionally and physically safe? Is this going to be okay? Mm-hmm. And now it seems like just a bad dream. I'm married now to an amazing man. Feel very safe, feel very honored because he totally encourages me to tell my story and help people and go out there. And I want to give hope for people, because sometimes I feel like when you've been in those situations, you think, well, there's no good men out there. We should just give up, and you know what I mean? Yeah. But that's not true. Or no good women. Women or men can have an experience like that. Yeah. But if you take the opportunity to change yourself and attract somebody different, attract somebody that will love you and respect you and care for you, it can happen. Yeah.
That's so beautiful. So this is obviously what led you to wanting to share and write your book.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do not know why I am so driven. But I just feel like there is so many people out there, if they don't even relate with the domestic violence part of my book, but that they've had a hard time, and how do you get through that? And what kind of choices do you need to make and all that kind of stuff. And that's, I think, the big part of my book that I like to really focus on is we have a choice. And when we get in situations like domestic violence or other situations where we feel like we don't have a choice, that is a lie, because we always have a choice. You know what I mean? It might be a really hard choice, to think, well, am I going to leave and am I going to be by myself, or am I going to have to go do chemo, or am I going to have to go do this, or am I going to have to do this really hard thing? But we still have a choice. We always have a choice. And the best, most wonderful choice we have is how we feel and how we interpret. Like, if we're grateful and if we see the silver lining and we focus on the good things in our life, we always have choices.
Your story is so amazing, and you are so amazing. Just that you're just being able to keep that lifeline going and trusting that there was something in you that wanted a good life, and there was maybe it was your childhood where you had some good experiences that you remembered that it could be back to that again. That's fortunate. A lot of times people are in a bad childhood and it's just a perpetuation, and yours is a little different. But you can see even with a really good childhood, it can lead to that once you're exposed to it. And so then for you to take the initiative above and beyond going back to school and rebuilding your life after these marriages, that you write a book, that's not an easy thing, and share, and then come on shows like this and go out and do speaking and help educate and encourage people is just phenomenal.
Thank you. Thank you.
And you're very good at articulating, and you know the facts, you've done the research. It's just brilliant.
Thank you. You're amazing.
Thank you.
I hope to get to know you better.
Well, we will, because what I'd love to do with you, when we spoke about it, is to do some teaching together, some co-teaching, or get a group of people and maybe do some webinars on the details and help step people through, and maybe be a lifeline with our contact, but also making sure more people see your book. Do you mind holding that up again?
Oh, yes, I'd love to.
So What Shall I Do is the name of the book. You can get it at anywhere books are sold, or where's it available?
Yeah, anywhere books are sold. I mostly steer people towards Amazon, but I think it can be available at any of the bookstores.
Great. And so just making sure people know about that and share it. So we really appreciate if you like our episode today, listeners, to go ahead and share Rock Bottom Syndicate. And you'll have an audio version on the podcast and a video. So make sure you download both, because the YouTube video version is going to be great too. So, yeah. So anything else that you can think of, Becky, that you'd like to share with our audience about your book or about takeaways?
I did want to put in a little plug. I have a program. It's a 6-module course, and it's totally geared for family and friends that are concerned about a loved one that could be in a possible domestic violence relationship and how to help them. Mm-hmm. And I've thought about this a lot. I would love to help victims, but it's hard to get exposed to them because they're being so controlled. Mm-hmm. And so after lots of research and talking to people, I thought the best way to help those victims is to help their family members that they trust. Yeah. And that love them, and they'll stick in through the hard times, because know that they don't always leave the first time. It takes up to 7 times. I think the average is 7 to 15 times of them leaving before they actually leave, mm-hmm. before they're actually done. So, I mean, my mom and dad got me to a domestic violence shelter, and I went back, and they were so discouraged. They even talk about it today. Here it's been since I got kidnapped. That was in 2004. So here it is, 15 years later?
Yeah, yeah.
My mom still cries when she says, we got you out and we made all these arrangements and then you went back. Like,
which sorry, is very so typical. It happens with, all the mixed feelings and mixed emotions. And of course, we're not feeling good by then, not taking care of ourselves frequently, maybe stress eating, not sleeping, all the physical things that start to fall apart.
The physical part, and then emotionally, I was 7 months pregnant, and I'm like, Mom, I didn't know what I was going to do. You know what I mean? That wasn't the best time for me emotionally to feel confident enough to leave. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know she doesn't understand that, but I'm just saying, putting a little plug, like, don't give up.
Yeah.
Just keep in there and know that you can help them and that they'll eventually figure it out, and just keep loving them and don't give up on them.
Where do you offer your course through? What's your mechanism for getting it to people?
So it's through Kajabi and it's through my website. So just go to Becky Erkkila. So BECKYERKKILA.com. And then there's a link there to purchase it, and it's just an audio. So you can listen to it going to work or at home while you're doing your chores or whatever.
Yeah, that is such a great idea to approach the caregivers and the family and friends who are hopefully in a better place emotionally and financially and all those different ways to offer this support, and not feel, like you said at the beginning of today, pushed away because of the unpleasant things going on. No one wants to be around that. They get scared themselves, and they can even blame an abuse victim for making the bad choice. They don't understand, and so that can also make it worse.
Well, and I think they don't understand it really is, I'm going to say a sickness, because it almost is. Yeah. Emotionally, they're not together enough to make good choices. Mm-hmm. And you know, it would be like expecting a 5-year-old to make decisions like a 25-year-old. You know what I mean? I don't know how to compare it, but I look back at my mentality and how I was thinking and my rationalization and my defense mechanism. I'm like, I wasn't in a good place. And I'm so sorry that you couldn't talk to me and say, yo, you need to leave. You know what I mean?
Well, you know, there's something behind, I'm glad you brought that up. There is something behind that. What happens when you live like that, you're in survival mode. You're on constant alert and hypervigilant at that point, because you know, your body knows, even though you may not say it in words, that you're in danger. Your body knows. And so you're living in parts of your brain and thinking with parts of your brain of, how do I get out, get away? You know, you're constantly thinking about hiding. And so you're unable at that point to be a good decision maker. Most of your decisions will be flawed when you're operating out of that fear, fight or flight. So if we can help people to get into a place of safety through sleep and meditation and distancing them, and so that they can get out of the amygdala, out of the fight or flight, into the prefrontal cortex and into safety where they can make a good decision. So they're not incapable. Look at how smart you are and how capable and reliable and all that, but your decision-making apparatus is not functioning right. And that can get complicated with inflammation from stress, not sleeping, dehydration, not eating well, and not being connected anymore because you've been isolated. So there's it all makes sense to science of why that happens. And so I'm really glad that you're able to teach it the way you do, and share from your heart and from your experience with your examples, so that we can help more people and stay safe ourselves.
I love that, because that's what I want to do, is help people.
Yeah.
Help people be safe and have a wonderful, happy life. Mm-hmm. Because I feel like we can all do that. It's our choices. We just have to get to that safe place, like you said, where we can make those choices and do the things that will bring us true happiness and safety. Because I sent my husband an article the other day about the best significant other is they help you feel safe. I'm like, honey, this is it. You make me feel safe, and it's so wonderful. I mean, I love your love, but I love that I feel so safe emotionally, physically, everything. I mean, so I am free to be myself. You know what I mean? Just love it.
Yeah, that's cute. That's so cool. Yesterday I did a podcast, and in the call I said something about being truly Joyce. And I was interviewing somebody the day before, Murphy Jensen, and he was saying he wanted to be just Murphy. And now you said the same thing. You just want to truly be Becky, and that's it, and be your real self. And that is really one of the regrets of the dying, is that they say Bronnie Ware says that that regret for not being who you always wanted to be, and that you lived some other life dictated to you. So there's nothing more fulfilling. Yeah.
I totally agree.
So when you have that question come up, what shall I do? You type into your browser, BeckyErkkila.com. That's what you shall do.
I like it. I like.
Yeah. I really appreciate your coming on today. It was such a great opportunity for me to get to know you and hear a little bit about your book, which I haven't read yet. And now I'm very eager to read the story and hear how the lessons translate. It definitely resonates with me and my life experience and so many people who I've helped and worked with. So I just, your perseverance and your determination, and it's all hopefully coming back to you and strengthening and re-strengthening your resolve.
That's what I want to do. You know what I mean? That's what I want to help go and strengthen them and empower them to make better choices that build confidence and happiness and their life that they've always wanted to do.
And I like to tell people, create a strong, joyous life, which is what I like to help people with, because my name is Joyce Strong. So Strong, Joyous.
I love it.
And I also want to say one more thing about what you do when you act this way, all the things you've done, and you're thinking about what we do for our children. And I know you have 10 kids, right? You have a lot of children. Is you're setting a model for people, because kids don't listen that well, but they do watch and they learn. So even though there were those tough times that did create some repercussions for the kids going forward, they have you this model now, and they see okay, when that happens, this is what you do. So they're modeling after us, even when we get into a jam like that, how to get back upright and what a mature grown person does. So I always think of that as my strength, and it helps me to forgive myself, and most important thing, and love myself in spite of the mistakes I made that I might look at as not good choices. I see how they happened, I learned from them, and we are together leaving such great legacy for our children.
I love that. And I do think that forgiving ourselves is the hardest person to forget.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
to know that I really truly can look back and say, okay, I did the best I could with what I had at the moment,
yeah,
and with what I was experiencing. And I've told kids sorry, and I'll be you and help you through your stuff now.
And you are, by just being you. Just being you and what you're doing is helping more than anything you can do.